Welcome back everyone for the third installment of my series ranking boxers according to a point system I created. If you haven't seen the light heavyweight or heavyweight videos yet, I would advise you to go watch them first, then come watch this one. For this episode in the series, we are focusing on the super middleweights while also chucking in the cruiserweights at the end. There will be no real analysis over the cruiserweights, they'll just be put in order of least to most points and a quick overview of what's happened, because let's admit, the cruiserweight division isn't the best. The super middleweights, however, will be in the same vein as the other videos were. So let's quickly rerun over the rules. Every super middleweight, other than international or regular champions, will be included on the list. All accomplishments must occur at super middleweight. For them to win the undisputed championship, they will receive 10 points. Becoming the lineal champion will receive 5 points. Winning or defending the WBC, WBA, IBF and Ring Magazine title, they will receive 2 points. Winning or defending the WBO title will receive them 1 point. Winning multiple titles in one fight will stack. Defending multiple titles will not. Winning the Ring Fight of the Year will receive them 1 point. There's going to be no points for Olympic gold medal. The super middleweight is not represented in the amateurs or the Olympics, and fighters with less than 6 points will not be included on the list. And so the points accumulation system we created in the last video will continue. So the top 25 total fighters points list will still be the same, but we'll add the cruiserweights and the super middleweights in there as well if they make enough points. And cruiserweights, as I said before, will make a quick appearance at the end of the video, and we're only going to really list them quickly. So let's go on to the notable exclusions. So the notable exclusions include Thomas Hearns, Murray Sutherland, Felix Sturm, Sakio Bika, and Canelo Alvarez. Canelo doesn't make it because he's only won the WBA regular title, and that doesn't include in our point system. We don't include the WBA regular title. Murray Sutherland, who was the first ever super middleweight world champion, didn't make enough title defenses, nor was considered the undisputed champion. And Thomas Hearns once again misses out on the list because again, he did not make enough title defenses at super middleweight. So let's go to 6 points. For the people who just made the list on 6 points, we have Sugar Ray Leonard, Mauro Gavalno, Richie Woodhull, Mikhail Kessler, Anthony Durrell, Gilberto Ramirez, George Groves, David Benavidez, and Caleb Plant. Mikhail Kessler, probably the most surprising name on this list. He won the world title, made a couple defenses, then lost it to Joe Calzagi. He would technically regain a world title, but it was the regular title, so we don't include that as any points on this list. The other gigantic name at 6 points is Sugar Ray Leonard. He would win the title against Donny Lalonde, then retain it in his controversial draw against Thomas Hearns, and then once again retain it in his third fight with Roberto Duran. Other than that, a lot of the names on 6 points are more recent. They haven't been given the opportunity to defend their title as much. That's why they're on 6 points. So let's move on. At 7 points, we have Steve Little, and I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce this man's last name, so let's just call him Fulgencio. Fulgencio's major highlight was fighting Marvin Hagler twice, and he lost on TKO on both occasions. 8 points, we have a plethora of fighters, including Graciano Rocchigiani, Arthur Abraham, Lindell Holmes, Steve Collins, James Toney, Charles Brewer, Eric Lucas, Jeff Lacey, Badu Jack, and Callum Smith. All of these fighters either didn't make enough title defenses, didn't stay at super middleweight long enough, or are recent champions, other than Steve Collins, who would beat the great Nigel Benn and Chris Eubank twice apiece, and Arthur Abraham, who are sadly lower than expected due to them holding the WBO and defending the WBO titles. 9 points, we have former lineal and WBA world champion Victor Cordoba. He held the title just before the icons of the super middleweight divisions appeared. He would lose all his titles to the great Michael Nunn, then he would have a rematch and lose that fight again. At 10 points, we have Anthony Mundine and James DeGale. Not particularly a fan of either. I think James DeGale was a really wasted talent, and I've always believed Anthony Mundine is a bit overrated and overhyped in the Australian boxing community. Let's move on. At 11 points, we have 2 Frenchmen in Christophe Tiozzo and Bruno Gerard, and the South Korean Baek Inchul. Inchul's biggest accomplishment came by beating legendary Australian Troy Waters in the split decision and winning the world super middleweight title from the aforementioned Fulgencio. He would eventually lose his title against the other 11-pointer Christophe Tiozzo. Inchul would also fight the legend Julian Jackson, being stopped in the 3rd round. 12 points, we have Roy Jones Jr. and Robert Stieglitz. Roy, like James Toney, didn't stay at super middleweight long enough to get a large points tally. However, interestingly enough, his many points that he received at light heavyweight and these extra 12 points put Roy Jones Jr. into contention for the top 10 fighter with the most points. Keep an eye out for that at the end of the video. Let's move on. At 15 points, we have Byron Mitchell, Michael Nunn, and a huge injustice, Chris Eubank. Chris Eubank held the WBO title for many years and defended it on numerous occasions. However, once again, because the WBO is a less reputable title, he only receives 1 point for each defense, meaning he only racks up a total of 15 points. In my opinion, he's one of the greatest super middleweights of all time and deserves to be way higher. At 20 points, we have legend and Eubank rival Nigel Benn, Lucien Boutte, and Carl I fought in front of 80,000 at Wembley Froch. 21 points, we have a surprise in Frank Lyles. He beat Steve Little for the lineal and WBA super middleweight titles and defended them on 7 occasions. He would lose to the aforementioned Byron Mitchell. 22 points, we have the German Marcus Bayer. He would beat Danny Green twice and Richie Woodhull once. He would hold the WBC title for a year and a half only to lose to Christian Sinavia. Hopefully that was how to pronounce his name right. He would immediately avenge that loss with a KO win and hold the WBC title for 2 more years until being stopped by Mikhail Kessler. At 24 points, we have the last lineal super middleweight champion Andre Ward. I personally thought he would make a few more points and actually come higher than 4th place. But once again, he didn't make enough title defenses to hang with the top 3. In 3rd place with 29 points, we have the 2nd super middleweight champion and considered the 1st lineal super middleweight champion, Chong Pal. He would hold the lineal title for 4 years between 1984 and 1988, making 11 defenses. He would hold the IBF and inaugural WBA super middleweight titles. He would eventually lose these titles to Venezuelan Fulgencio in his home country of South Korea by unanimous decision. In 2nd place with 37 points, we have a gigantic shock. Most people, including myself, greatest super middleweight ever, Joe Calzagi. Sadly, he suffers from the WBO curse, holding that title for most of his title reign, only bringing in the other belts to his collection at the latter stages of his career. He also would never be considered the undisputed champion because of one man who he would never face holding the last portion of the middleweight crown. That man is Sven Ottky, who was our number 1 place super middleweight with 46 points. He held the IBF title for 6 years and the WBA title for a single year. He, like Joe, would also retire undefeated. Joe Calzagi retiring at 46-0 and Ottky at 34-0. A strange thing of note, Joe Gaddy, Arturo Gaddy's brother, would actually fight Sven Ottky for the title and be stopped in the 9th by Ottky. So next we will use the graphs for the representation of the fighters and nationalities of this division. So from the first graph you can see Sven Ottky and Joe Calzagi head and shoulders above the rest of the competition, with only Andre Ward and Chong Pal remotely close. I again think this list did Eubank and Steve Collins particularly dirty, as they were some of the best the division has ever seen, but I digress. Now for the pie chart. I guess this just reiterates the dominance Calzagi and Ottky had, with a ridiculous 16% of all the points in this list split between them. For the nationalities, the US is ahead like always, but Great Britain and Germany aren't too far behind, with South Korea also giving a respectable tally. On the pie chart, the US is 29% and the UK is 23.6%, closest share of the points total so far. Now onto the brief cruiserweight listings. So for the cruiserweights, the top 3 places are O'Neal Bell at 27 points, Usyk and Holyfield at 32, and Carlos de Leon in 1st place with 45. Part of the reason I didn't make a dedicated cruiserweight video is that it isn't really interesting. Holyfield, Usyk, Leon, David Haye, Gaziev, and the newest World Boxing Super Series winner, Breedis, are the only interesting fighters here. However, Holyfield's huge tally is definitely going to help him in the top 25 list for sure. Speaking of the top 25 list, this is the new list with the updated scores added. Anthony Joshua, Michael Moorer have both been eliminated from the 25, and Usyk fails to make it by 1 point. Ali is still ways ahead with 113 points, but Holyfield's achievements at cruiserweight and heavyweight have pushed him into 2nd, above Joe Louis and former foe Lennox Lewis. Roy Jones Jr.'s added super middleweight score sees him move above Tyson into 9th, and Sven Ottky moves into equal 12th with Virgil Hill. Andre Ward slides into 20th with a total of 35 points. Now the likes of Tyson Fury, Darius Mikulkeski, Tommy Burns and Rocky Marciano are all on the chopping block, with their spots surely gone the moment I make the next video. So what did you guys think, and did you like the video? Leave a like if you did and tell me your thoughts in the comment section, as I really do appreciate the constructive criticism. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one. Bye.